Hey everybody, it's Kevin, and in today's video I'm going to talk to you about orthorexia. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button so you never miss a video, and if you want to speak with me, there is a link below. I've also launched a new 14-day challenge, Junk Food Domination. If you want access to that, there is also a link below. You can get started today. What is orthorexia? Orthorexia is this preoccupation with food. It's having all of these rules and being super focused on what you eat. If you feel like all you think about is what you ate and what you're going to eat next, you probably have orthorexia. You probably have this really regimented schedule, this regimented meal plan, and you've got to follow it to the T. That was me for a long time. I remember when I transitioned to a plant-based diet, more like a pescatarian diet when I was 21 years old, which was good because I eliminated some stuff that I shouldn't have been eating. But I went way too far, and I was always thinking about what I was eating, always thinking about calories, always thinking about macros. I couldn't think about anything else, and it just took over my life. Now, what are the origins of orthorexia? I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you don't have control over your life, especially now. We have this pandemic. Nobody has control over that, but this is well before the pandemic. This is pre-pandemic. And I didn't feel like I controlled my life. I wasn't good at anything. I didn't have any goals. I didn't know what my future was. There was a lot of uncertainty. I suppose a lot of 21-year-olds feel that way. But for me, I was isolated. I was in college, no friends, no social life. I wasn't going out. So the one thing I could control was what I ate. And that's exactly what happened. I became super obsessed with my diet because that was the one thing I could control. So what do you do if you have orthorexia? It's kind of a tough nut to crack because for a lot of orthorexics, they don't believe they have a problem. And I think that's the first step, is you have to admit that you have a problem. And it took me 2-3 years, maybe not that long, probably a year and a half, 2 years, to figure out that this was a problem, that I was too regimented, I was too strict, that I was cutting out entire food groups. I wasn't even eating potatoes. I mean, come on, potatoes, really? People do potato weight loss diets, and I wasn't even eating those. But I had cut out so much, and all I was eating every day was like raw fruits and vegetables and some cereal, and that was it. It was totally insufficient, especially for the demands I was placing on my body at the time. But even though people around me were telling me that I was too thin and I was losing weight and I didn't look healthy, I didn't believe it. I thought I was doing the right thing. Which is crazy to believe now that I look back. I look back now and think, what were you thinking? That's crazy. But I thought I was being healthy. I thought I was fit. I liked being lean. I didn't want to be old and fat. I didn't want a dad bod. I think that scared me more than anything else. I mean, it still kind of scares me now, but I know what to do to prevent that, and it's not inevitable. You just have to be diligent. So when you combine this need for control and isolation and a lack of goals and self-centeredness, you get orthorexia. So the first step is admitting that you have a problem. You have to look in the mirror, get the feedback, look at the obvious signs. It's like if you're 100 pounds overweight and you say, oh, I don't have a problem. Yes, you do. And that's what I wasn't doing. I wasn't looking at all the health problems I had. No sex drive, no testosterone, no ability to produce muscle mass. I looked emaciated. I look at pictures of me now at that time and I'm thinking, man, what was I missing? Now, the next thing you need to do is realize that it's not making you healthier. Even though I was eating a really strict diet, really good diet, basically a vegan diet with some meat in there. I remember eating some eggs and some fish, so it wasn't like pure vegan. I had to realize that what I was doing was detrimental to my goals. I wanted to be healthy. A lot of people do this because they want to be healthy. That wasn't it at all. But it took me so long to realize that it was actually hurting me. It was hurting me physically, it was hurting my performance, it was also affecting my mental health because I was spending all this time and energy thinking about what I was going to eat and optimize my diet and making sure the macros were just perfect. It was stupid, it was a waste of time. But also the tremendous cost to my mental health. It wasn't healthy for me mentally to do all this. It was a distraction and it was a misallocation of resources. So even though I was consuming a really healthy diet, the cost of my mental health wasn't worth it in the end. And there are so many different aspects to health. It's not just diet, it's what you eat, it's how you think, it's your social connections, it's how much sleep you're getting, it's stress relief. I think mental health is really underrated. I didn't even consider mental health back then, but my mental health sucked. because I was orthorexic and I was always thinking about what I was going to eat next. A big step in orthorexia recovery is to give yourself permission to eat anything and everything. This was a big one for me because I had so many foods that I had put on the bad list, you know, the do not eat list, and eventually that backfired, and I ended up chewing and spitting, and I ended up, you know, binging, purging, binging, fasting, and I ended up with 9-10 years of eating disorders. So it ultimately did not make me healthier. But one thing that I had to do at some point was to allow myself to eat anything. And when I mean anything, I mean anything. Like if somebody brings donuts to the office, eat one piece of a donut. Okay. Now you don't have to do that at first, but you need to give yourself permission to eat anything that's whole. Okay. That could be milk. That could be potatoes. That could be cereals. That could be bread. That could be meats, yogurt, whatever. Everything needs to be an option. Once you've overcome this, then you can start to consider things like keto and vegan and paleo and alkaline and whatever other diets they have. But when you are orthorexic, a big step, a big win is to reject the diet mentality and give yourself permission to eat anything. One thing you need to do if you are orthorexic is to stop designating foods as good and bad. It's a really medieval way of thinking about things. It's black and white. It's like, this is good, this is bad, this is on the eat list, this is on the do not eat list. It's kind of an immature way of thinking, because there is no one food that's the problem. Food is just, it's chemicals. That's all it is. I'm not saying that you should eat Lay's potato chips and zebra cakes. That's not what I'm saying at all. In fact, you probably shouldn't be. But it's not bad. It's just not preferable. There are better options that you should choose. You should be eating more plant-based whole foods, I believe. And whether you eat a plant-based diet or not, it should be whole, it should be unprocessed. At least the majority of your diet should be. I don't know anybody out there who says that you should eat a processed food diet. Not a single physician, not a single nutritionist, not a single dietitian, not a single personal trainer. All of them have goofy beliefs about what you should eat, but they all agree on one thing. A minimally processed diet is the best diet. Now we can discuss, you know, the different macro composition, you know, what's the ideal diet? Is it high carb? Is it low carb? I'm not interested in that. But you should start with a whole foods, unprocessed diet. But even if you do have something like a donut or a Danish or a baked good, something that's really high in flour and sugar and doesn't satisfy you, don't call it bad. It's just not something you should eat frequently. That's it. If you are concerned about weight and you're orthorexic, and that is a huge concern for orthorexics, is that they're so afraid of gaining weight, understand this, it's not hard to lose weight. It's not. Especially if you're a male and you're relatively young, you should not be worried about weight loss. Weight loss just comes naturally. Now, I know for older females, 30s, 40s, 50s, it takes a little more diligence. I get it. But if you're patient with the process and you set realistic goals and you're consistent every day, not even that, just let's say 90% of the time, you're going to hit your target. I mean, my grandma can lose weight if she wanted to. The only reason weight loss is hard is because we set unrealistic expectations and we try to beat biology. We try to take shortcuts. We think that we can lose a large amount of weight in a short amount of time because somebody else has done it. Well, it doesn't mean you should do it. Like I said, you should set a realistic goal. Try to lose weight over a year. Why not? A year in the grand scheme of things isn't that long. And if you give yourself a year, you're probably going to hit that target. So give yourself a year. 18 months would be better, but it'll be nice. 12 months. If you don't have that much, then 6 months. What I'm saying is don't lose it fast. Be realistic. Give the process time. Another thing that I recommend that you do is stop looking at yourself so much in the mirror, and it only causes anxiety. And the truth is, when you're orthorexic, you're never going to be satisfied with your body. You might be happy 1 or 2 days because you realize that you've lost a lot of weight and you look better and you're slimmer. Great, good for you. But the truth is, you're probably always going to have some insecurity about how much you weigh and what you look like. Deal with it. Losing those extra 5 or 6 pounds is probably not worth it, especially if it triggers an eating disorder and then you spend the next few years of your life trying to repair the damage. Trust me, it's not worth it. Be satisfied at a certain weight, and it might be higher than what you expect. Don't chase a number. Don't spend your whole life chasing some arbitrary number that you have in your head. I have to be this weight all the time. Well, here's the thing. Weight can fluctuate, and that's okay. If you look at mammals, they fatten up in the winter, and then they lose it in the spring and summer. They fatten up in the winter. Okay, it's cyclical. There's nothing that says you can't do that. Okay, it's okay to gain a little bit in the winter. There's always articles that say how to prevent winter weight gain. Who cares? Like, gain 5 or 6 pounds as long as you have a plan to lose it and you're consistent. So follow through on that New Year's resolution is what I'm saying. My point is, even if you do gain weight, you can lose it again. And even if you did gain weight, would it be the end of the world? Probably not. Instead of focusing on weight, you should always be focused on behavior. And this is something that I didn't do for the longest time. I was so obsessed with the weight, and I ignored all of the behaviors. I ignored the regimented rules that I had. I was ignoring the fact that I was binging all the time. I ignored the fact that I was eating at night. I ignored all of these red flags. I should have been focused on those. I should have been focused on fixing those problems, those deep problems like the behavior, and instead I was so focused on the weight. Fix the behavior, the weight will take care of itself, trust me. When you are orthorexic, you're probably eating a lot of low-calorie foods. I certainly was. I was eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, which is fine. Everybody should eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. It's good in many ways. You've got micronutrients. It's good for your gut health. Fills you up faster. Fine. But you can't just eat fruits and vegetables. I mean, I suppose you can. But I think stuff like whole grains is a good addition. Potatoes are a good addition. Nuts are a good addition. If you're not vegan, a little bit of yogurt and some lean meat. Again, don't deny yourself anything. Don't designate anything as good or bad. There is no good and bad. There is more preferred and there is less preferred. Finally, I just want to say this. If you are orthorexic, you need to focus on other things in your life. There are probably other problems in your life that you should be focusing on. You don't need a lot of information to eat right. You don't. You eat whole foods, mainly plants. You eat when you're hungry. That's it. If you are orthorexic, you definitely have a problem executing. You know the information, but you don't know how to apply it. And you're so afraid of gaining weight that you're ignoring all of these other parts of your life. Your social life probably sucks. You're probably not performing well in school. You're probably not performing well in your sport. You're probably not performing well at work. You don't have a lot of other goals in life. Have other goals and focus on other areas of your life. Check out my previous video that I made last week, where I tell you the #1 thing in eating disorder recovery. And even though orthorexia isn't an eating disorder per se, because there's no clinical classification for it, you're probably misallocating your time and energy, and definitely your focus. Focus on other things, live a cool life, have goals, and I think orthorexia will resolve itself. I hope you found this video educational and entertaining. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and if you want to speak with me, there is a link below. If you liked this video, I'm sure you'll like one of the other ones that you see on the screen. Click one of them, and I'll see you there.